Hello everyone, and welcome to today's show of The Single Parent, brought to you by Christ Our Shepherd Ministries. My name is Jennifer Dow, and we are bringing you fresh perspective and real solutions to today's single parent. And today with me, I want to thank Katina Coward for joining us. Katina is the founder and owner of Heart of the Matter Learning. She also serves as an educator and mentor and advocate for families, especially for those children labeled as problem children or special needs. And really, you kind of just facilitate their growth and achievement to help them reach their God-given potential. And you have adopted 6 children and just graduated the youngest one. Is that right?
Yes.
Wow, I can't even imagine. Adopted, so by choice, single parent by choice, really.
Single parent by choice or by design by God.
Right.
Choose
wow.
one.
That's amazing. Well, so tell us a little bit more about your story, just why you're here today. Why is this whole learning thing important with the perspective that you have on it?
Well, I am a daughter of ministers, but we come from a long line of teachers and preachers is our family joke. And so as a result of that, being around the education field, social workers, you get a heart for people. And growing up in the church, you make a lot of connections with people. And my life came full circle after college, and I came back home from college. And some kind of way, my heart led me to serve the youth in our church. As a result of that, we started to find that a lot of our youth, just for various reasons, were losing parents. As a result of that, some of them ended up having to call me mom, and I thank God for that. But during that process, they gave a lot to me, but I learned a lot about people and about just how important your emotions are with learning. And so as a result, I believe that it was time for me to open up a company and a ministry that I could help other people to learn how to see these things and how not to let them stop a young person's life from becoming all that it should be.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and when I was hearing you talk, there's so many different components and different sides of things that could get in the way of somebody's learning. You have, first of all, a breakup, losing a parent, all the different things that go along with that. And then you mentioned emotions and learning. So did you find that there was some pretty just general issues, if you will, or just emotional baggage that was pretty consistent that kind of could be generalized for the kids that were losing parents, that was getting in the way of their learning?
I believe that in different kind of ways, they all became distracted. Some became distracted by trying to become perfect, which can wear them out emotionally. And then when they make a small mistake, it becomes overwhelming. Some became distracted by dwelling on the thoughts and the emotions and trying to process just what was going on in their lives, depending on the age. And so what we found is that, generally speaking, the distractions came from the mind's inability to process the information in a way that kept them productive in their day-to-day lives. So they spent a lot of time thinking, why me? Why us? Is it my fault? Is there something I can do to change it?
Yeah. So when you said just they were basically being in an emotional state that kept them from being able to process the information, what kind of emotional state is required? And what then is the foundation for getting a child in a state where they can be ready to learn?
I believe the best way to get a child in a state where they're ready to learn is to get them into a place where they recognize negative actions and positive actions. Sometimes we can't tell the difference between a good fear and a bad fear, especially the younger you are. And so depending on the age of the child, it benefits you to help them to understand. Fear may keep you from running out in traffic, but it could also keep you from getting your A on your test. So how to address the anger, the fear, sometimes the nightmares or the bad dreams, or the inability to take in positive criticism versus negative criticism. the mind gets jumbled up. We're adults and we get a little confused with it. So can you
Right.
imagine how a child handles it?
So what is the process you go through with that? How do you, okay, so somebody's out of whack emotionally, they can't learn, they're having all these blocks, they're not doing well in school. What do you do? How do you go in there? Is it just you that's doing the work, or are you coaching parents? Tell me about that process.
Well, initially it was me just trying to be that help to some single moms and dads that God had placed in my life. But as time went on, I found out that I ended up having to be the person who needed the helping hand.
Right.
And so what I learned, bar none, you have to first get the child to trust you. And sometimes if you're the primary caregiver, it pays to have another adult that you can trust, not just somebody that you pick up, but another adult that you can trust, that the child can also trust. Because sometimes just the change of avenue opens up the ability to communicate. When a child can communicate and identify his feelings and get the feelings out, we find that they stop being a blockage. It's like a dam. If you can knock the dam down, then the water flows freely. If you can stop the blockage, then the thoughts can flow freely, the retention of the memories so that they remember positive things as opposed to, yesterday somebody wasn't nice to me. I find that the more negative things happen, the more you dwell on negativity. And we know the Word of God says whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely.
Right.
We have to just teach them and guide them on how to think on positive things.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say is that giving them an outlet then for dealing with the emotional stuff so that they can then start focused on learning.
Definitely.
So this isn't a what you would, when I hear learning, normally I'm thinking, oh, let's get out the report card and strategize our education plan, but we're not even talking about real education, school stuff. We're talking about just so how can what are some ideas for outlets and really, especially, well, let's ask this question first. Sometimes, especially for somebody like me and maybe other kids that are like me, that are loud and really, very just out there and very expressive, wear their emotions on their sleeve. It's easier to tell when something's wrong. What can you look for to know that you need to help them with something, that you need to give them a special outlet for something that's blocking their learning?
Well, that's when it pays to have already paid attention to your child.
Right.
Because sometimes the signs are very subtle.
Right.
Like you said, every child isn't outgoing or verbal. My experience was that the verbal children were very easy to identify. The nonverbal children, the children who tend to keep things on the inside, I found that it was more maybe a change in the way they dressed or the decision to participate in things that they normally enjoy doing, subtle changes, a lack of desire to be with their friends as much, just small things that you could say, oh, they're tired and they just don't feel like it today. But if today turns into maybe a week, maybe you need to start paying attention. And the outlet for it would be find a way for them to communicate, even if they never want to show it to the world. For my baby, which he's not a baby anymore, he just graduated, Marquise, we learned, and it was my mom, she's a teacher and a social worker, but her idea was put a pen and paper in his hand. He was not very good at talking, and all of us are very verbal in our family, and so we found that he would be the one that just kind of laid back and didn't say anything, and he kind of got lost in the crowd. Well, we gave him the pen and pad, and it's amazing. His anger came down, his ability to concentrate came up. He was actually diagnosed ADHD. All of that was a lot more manageable after he was able to address his emotions. And he became this spoken word rap guy that was no longer afraid to be in front of everybody.
Wow.
And it helps a lot.
Okay, so that's great. So